Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So today we have a deck that was inspired by somebody that beat me down pretty badly last night while I was playing, by the name of DSOUT. And so he used a combination of both Green Goblin and Titania and a couple of other key cards to completely clog my board, so I wasn't able to really do anything. If I wanted to get a combo off, it was too bad. If I wanted to clear the board before I knew it, it was already full and he had valuable cards in its place. And so this is the best replica that I could get off of the cards that I remember playing against, and filling in the rest with cards that I thought were viable in those slots. And so if you're watching this, DSOUT, thank you so much for beating me down, because it gave me the inspiration to build this, and I have been having an absolute blast with it. So the idea behind this list is to basically compete for 2 locations. You want to force the opponent into capping out 2 locations or key locations so that you can swing them in your favor with either a Doc Ock, a Shang-Chi, a Sunspot to absorb additional energy, a Mojo, or even limiting the space that the opponent has to play so you can place a last turn Gamora and find yourself in a winning position instead. Now this list has a lot of big brain possibilities. You have to really think about what your opponent is running, and you have a lot of opportunities to outthink and outplay them, which is what makes it so fun for me. If you've been a fan of the channel for a while, you know that I love Debris decks, but in general, she's just not very consistent. In this list, it feels like if you don't draw her, it's okay. If you do, it's an added benefit to help you clog the lanes even more, but it's not an absolute requirement. And so I don't know that I would go with necessarily any replacements in this. Titania, I feel like, is absolutely core. You could do a weaker version, but one of my absolute favorite playlines is a Titania and Green Goblin on turn 4, and that will fill up to 2 slots on the opponent's side of the board, and it can surprise them with how quickly their lane caps out. And you could do the same thing with Polaris. You could do Titania into a Polaris, and that would pull one of their 1 or 2 cost resources over, and then send the Titania to their side of the board, and you just get an insane amount of value and board presence that you're taking away from the opponent. All right, so first up we have MEANEST, and I'm gonna do a little bit less commentary on this one than I normally do. 1, because my voice is still recovering. 2, some of you guys say talk less, and so we're gonna try it out. We're just gonna kind of go through the broad strokes. And so Starlight Citadel will switch their locations. We are looking for any kind of opening, any kind of indicator that gives us a good feeling of what we're going up against, and if we can force them to cap it out in some way. So until then, we're just going to kind of play it cautiously until they have some cards out on the board. So they do play Sunspot. We send them the Widow's Bite as long as this last location isn't something that destroys it. So it's the Isle of Silence, so it's not. We can start looking for that way to win one of those locations. And so I actually think the way to win one of those locations is going to be competing for the middle 2. I don't think we're going to win or outpower the Starlight Citadel, especially if we overwhelm them early. And so we're going to go with the Mojo into the Isle of Silence, assuming that they don't change the Starlight Citadel location. That's going to give us the in once that location changes. Maybe we can use that to find our win. So here it kind of comes down to a read. Depending on where they play, are they going to play in Hell's Kitchen or the Isle of Silence? So whichever one they play in, if they play at least 1 card, then we're going to get them to cap out that location with the Titania and Goblin combo. I'm going to, I guess, hope that they play into the Isle of Silence. No, they play into Hell's Kitchen. And so now it's not fully capped out. It is a little bit harder for them to maneuver around, but it's not fully capped out. We could have forced their Jubilee to not pull anything, which would have been really beneficial, but that arrow pull from Jubilee was also fantastic. So we're going to do something that I think might be pretty cool. We're going to use the Viper to send over the hood. We're going to use Polaris to try to pull into the Titania. If they don't play anything else or bounce it back to our side before then we should be able to pull the Titania over and cap out this lane, or at least get really close to it so we can finish it off with a Gamora. Is that the best playline? I don't know. That's what we're going to go with because I think it'd be a really cool interaction. Wow, so they go with a leader, and wow. So their leader copies are Polaris and just all kinds of unfortunate nonsense for them. And then we just, off of that, win the Isle of Silence. And we force the retreat. Now, had I been more certain about that Polaris and Viper combination, I would have snapped going into it. but we will play a little bit more aggressively moving forward, because with a debris junk deck, you have to play aggressively, or you're just going to get 1 cubes here and there, and you're just going to barely chip away at your climb. All right, next up we have Kamita, and just as a gentle reminder, if you're seeing a lot of death wave archetypes, which has kind of died off in popularity, but if you're seeing a lot of those, this is probably not the deck for you. You probably want to pivot into something else until that dies down, because this does well against a lot of combo decks, a lot of kind of flood decks, just a very vast array of different decks. But the death wave has several counterplays to make it hard for you to be able to find your wins. So we're actually going to play our Sunspot and our Demon into the Muir Island location, and then I think we pass and we wait. Oh, so they do a Juggernaut, unfortunately. But our Machine World is not going to give them these cards because we didn't play them there. So we actually at least get a little bit of an advantage in the Machine World, even if it's not a whole lot. And so here we are going to start looking for the lane lockdown. If they play 1 card here, that's okay. Our Green Goblin will go over there anyways. If they don't, then both Titania and Green Goblin will go over there, and then we can always recall it back at a later point. And so we're going to see they do play 1 card. Our Titania comes down, our Green Goblin goes over and finishes capping out the Muir Island. And so they have the Colossus. And so they do have a pretty big Muir Island location, but they're not going to be able to do something like a Professor X lockdown. And so I think because of that, we're going to play our Viper over there. We're going to play our players into the Dark Dimension that could potentially pull their Daredevil out of Muir Island on the last turn. Actually, they can see what we're playing. So silly. So they do answer with 1 card in Machine World, and that is Arrow. So, so that is going to, unfortunately, uncap their Muir Island location. So this is where we go gambling. We're going to go ahead and play Doc Ock into the Muir Island location. If they don't play a card there, expecting us to play a card there and expecting Titania to bounce to their side, Doc Ock will pull a card in. It's going to be a random draw, but we don't know. It's only for 1 additional cube. And so it's going to keep the Titania on our side of the board. And then we're competing for the Machine World location as well. And so Electro comes down. That transaction does work out in our favor. We keep the lead, at least for now, barring any kind of crazy Magneto plays, which only pulls over our Polaris, and we still find the win. Not by much, but we find the win. All right, next up we have Bex, and the first location, Wakanda Embassy, gives us a buff to the cards in our hand. Luckily, we didn't have Green Goblin at the time. Unluckily for them, they already start playing some cards onto the board, and so we have an ideal location to target. So I really like this playline. We could go with the Mojo. We could go with a double Sunspot and just start letting them absorb. Let's go ahead and snap into it. Let's be a little bit aggressive. We're going to play double Sunspot. On turn 3, we can do a double Green Goblin. If we get a Debris, we can do double Debris. And the Sunspot allows us to continue to absorb energy turn after turn. So they do a Korg. It tells me they're probably running a Hawk deck. And so if we draw into our Shang-Chi, that's another great counterplay to their double Hawk. And so we're going to go ahead and do the double Green Goblin. We do draw immediately into the Korg Rock. I don't have issues with the Korg Rock until we draw into it immediately after it is played. At that point, it stings a little bit. But we do come close to capping out the Wakanda Embassy lane. So they have initiative, but I think we're going to go ahead and play our Titania. We're going to play a Polaris to try to pull their Korg over. Actually, we're going to save the Titania. We're going to do a Polaris to pull at least their Korg over and cap out the Wakanda Embassy lane, and then they just have these 2 to operate in. And if we can force them into capping out this middle Sinister London lane by the next turn, then we can just have the lane or the game locked down, because then they can only compete for Kunlun at that point. And so we do get a Shang-Chi to counter any kind of Hawk play line that they end up going with. Now, they're playing it very cautiously. And so because of that, I think we're just going to play our Mojo. I think we're going to lean into either the Gamora and Titania or the Shang-Chi and the Titania on the last turn, because I don't think they're going to play anything into Sinister London this turn, knowing that we're trying to clog their board and send them just a bunch of junk. So let's go ahead and lock in. Oh, they do play. Oh no, we were wrong. We were entirely wrong. That's not good. Now, if they have an Arrow, they can pull our card out of the Sinister London lane with Arrow. Oh no, we're gonna give it the good old shot. We're gonna play our Shang-Chi into the Sinister London lane. If they get greedy and they go with a Hawk or a Mystique, then we'll be able to destroy both of these as long as they don't have a Cosmo, an armor, maybe even an arrow would do it. But then if they had an arrow, we would destroy their cards here. And so I think we would be okay, maybe? We're going to go ahead and lock it in. I think we have a good shot here. They do play a card, at least one card. They do get greedy. They copy the card in the Sinister London lane. Now the last one, it can't be. It's a Sentinel. So very, very greedy play, Bex. And you are going to not get rewarded for the greed. We are going to destroy both of your big resources with the Shang-Chi play. And then we do have... we might actually sweep it. We have Titania coming down. No, we don't win the far right lane, but we win the left in the middle very, very heavily. For a quick and cheeky 4 cubes. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Tomster. The first location is on the Isle of Silence. The second one is Kiln. And the Kiln is not terribly great for us because it's hard for us to compete for it unless we get something like a Sunspot or something that can grow over time. And so I'm going to start focusing on the Isle of Silence and this last location instead. Wow, the Professor X comes down and we tie with the debris. So unless they have a way to buff that lane up, we're actually okay after everything is said and done. So I'm going to go with a Sunspot that will be able to grow and get bigger over time. The only play line in the Isle of Silence is the only thing that they can do on turn 5 because that's going to be the only location that they can play. And we're going to make sure that they pull into all of their cards and cap out that lane with a Doc Ock. And then after that, I think we can just pass to find the win in Kiln. Either that or do a Shang-Chi. And so we are looking very, very happy. I am very glad with the way that this board just kind of developed. If they do have something that buffs their Professor X, then we'll know that on turn 5. We don't have to risk the entire 4 or 8 cubes. Oh, the Mr. Fantastic is that sort of something. And so let's go ahead and let's see. We're going to see if we can find a way to win Kiln. They have 3 cards in their hand. We're going to pull 2 of them into the Isle of Silence and just see what we can make happen. If we can have the lead in the Isle of Silence, then all we have to do is skip just with any energy next turn, and we can win the Kiln location as well. So they do come down with a Warpath. He's 5 power. Could it be a Spectrum? No, it's a Claw. But Claw's ongoing effect does not take effect because of the Isle of Silence, and so we get the quick and cheeky 2 cubes because we were aggressive and snapped early. What a wild, wild game. We're going to go ahead and jump over into the next one. Isle of Silence was MVP. All right, next up we have Fuel. And I'm going to try and get this last game before my voice goes out entirely. Ooh, so TVA. TVA is an interesting one. We're not incredibly powerful in TVA games, and a Thanos deck is pretty decent in them. Maybe they change it with the Duality Stone. Maybe they just try to all-out power push it. And so we'll see. We do have a couple of kind of tricks up our sleeves or play lines we could go with. I'm going to push the Green Goblin into TVA to try to finish capping it out. And then if they don't change that location, I don't know. I don't know how we win this one. I don't know that we do, honestly. We're going to try to pull one of their 1 or 2 cost cards over from TVA into Hala. We're also going to play our Titania into TVA. I think we lose this one, but we're going to give it a shot. And so they do play Quinjet, and that is not going to be enough because Polaris is going to break the Ant-Man bonus. I think we find our win. So we are tied in Hala. We have the 5 power coming down from Titania. What a strange match. But I'm okay with it. We are okay with it. My voice is about to go out anyways. So if you want to see more of this deck in the future, let me know. But I am going to go ahead and end it here. This is an incredibly fun, incredibly big-brained, combo-driven deck that has a lot of outs to find your wins. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and a comment down below. And as always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.